Hello, word fans, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today as we dissect another fascinating word in the English language. Today's word is conscience. Let's dive right in. What exactly is conscience? Well, it's a noun, and at a C1 level, it refers to a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. It's that little voice inside your head, that feeling in your gut, that tells you whether something you're doing or thinking about doing is good or bad. Think of it as your internal moral compass. It's what makes you feel guilty when you lie, and it's what makes you feel good when you do something kind for someone else. It's the basis of your moral code. Let's explore some synonyms for conscience. One is moral sense. For example, her moral sense prevented her from cheating on the exam. Another synonym is sense of right and wrong. He seems to lack any sense of right and wrong. Another suitable synonym is inner voice. Her inner voice told her that she was making the wrong decision. We can also use moral compass. He uses his moral compass to navigate difficult situations. Finally, still small voice is another option, especially in a more literary or religious context. She couldn't ignore the still small voice of her conscience. Now, let's consider some antonyms, words that have the opposite meaning. A key antonym is unscrupulousness. Someone who is unscrupulous is not restrained by conscience or principle. For example, the businessman's unscrupulousness allowed him to make a fortune by exploiting his workers. Another antonym could be amorality, which signifies lacking any moral sense, being neither moral nor immoral. The philosopher argued for the amorality of the universe. We could also consider wickedness as an antonym, though it's a stronger word, implying active evil. The wickedness of his actions shocked everyone. Another strong antonym is evil. She defeated evil with her honesty. Furthermore, dishonesty works as an antonym in many situations. His dishonesty was a direct violation of his conscience. How can we use conscience in everyday life? Well, it comes up in many common expressions. For instance, clear conscience means you don't feel guilty about anything. I have a clear conscience because I told the truth. Conversely, guilty conscience means you do feel guilty. He had a guilty conscience after lying to his friend. You might say someone is burdened by conscience if they are struggling with guilt. She was burdened by conscience after the accident. You might tell someone to let your conscience be your guide. When in doubt, let your conscience be your guide. It's also often used in expressions relating to decision-making. You might have a crisis of conscience, which implies a moral dilemma. He was experiencing a crisis of conscience regarding his job. Here are a few more sentences using conscience to solidify your understanding. He has a very strong conscience, so he always tries to do what's right. My conscience wouldn't allow me to accept the bribe. She donated anonymously to the charity, acting purely out of conscience. The politician's conscience appeared to be non-existent, given his corrupt actions. Although it was difficult, he followed his conscience and resigned from his position at 4 p.m. Her conscience pricked her when she saw the homeless man. He ignored his conscience and made a terrible mistake. The lawyer was a slave to his conscience. She debated whether her conscience should permit the questionable activity. He struggled to reconcile his desires with his conscience. Having a guilty conscience drove him to confess at 3 p.m. A clear conscience made her sleep soundly at 10 p.m. His conscience told him to turn around. I couldn't live with my conscience if I did that. The company operated without conscience. The constant noise bothered his conscience. So, to recap, conscience is your internal moral compass, your sense of right and wrong. Synonyms include moral sense, sense of right and wrong, and inner voice, while antonyms include unscrupulousness, amorality, and wickedness. It's a fundamental part of our moral framework, guiding our decisions and actions. That's all for today's episode on the word conscience. Thank you for tuning in to Hello Word. I hope you found this helpful. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your support helps others discover the show. Now, for your homework, create your own sentence using the word conscience and share it in the comments below. We'd love to see how you use it. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring the wonderful world of words.